Hello friends, welcome to Research Life. I am your host, Dr. Sabyasachi Sengupta, founder and director of Sengupta's Research Academy and practicing vitreoretinal surgeon in Mumbai. Research Live is a platform meant to ignite the spirit of clinical research amongst all of us. Here I host some of the most eminent researchers in India, and I'm confident that their journey will inspire us all. Hello all, and welcome back to part 2 of our ongoing conversation with Professor Amod Gupta. In part 1, he talked about the beginnings of his journey, his motivations, his mentor, his first publication, and so much more. Let's carry on this conversation with him. So, the next question was how important is it to have an international stint or a fellowship to enhance your research career? Did you have one, and what impact did it have on your career?
Well, if you can get an international fellowship or opportunity to do a research fellowship, I think nothing like that. I mean, it will be a great thing to learn, at the hands of very keen researchers. The only thing you need to do is perhaps locate right faculty where you wish to do that kind of a training. For myself, well, I did go for a short stint as a fellow, which was more like a clinical observer rather than a researcher. So it didn't really help me in pursuing my research work ever in my life.
So, the next question was how should we approach the concept of biostatistics? It is a relatively feared subject. How did you approach biostatistics and how did you communicate with your biostatistician?
Well, biostatistics has been my Achilles heel and probably true for most of the researchers in India, where we really don't have a great training in biostatistics. We do not have very strong biostatisticians who would understand the research protocols. So it has been a challenge all my life how to deal with the biostatisticians and how to frame our research questions and what statistical methods to use. And every time the paper comes back with queries on biostatistics, I think we have to chase around and try to figure out statisticians who would be able to solve our problem. I think the one solution probably lies in strengthening this particular aspect of epidemiological studies to have more faculty trained who help us in framing the right research questions, who help us in designing studies as a part of, as I said earlier, as a part of the clinical study design unit.
So, the next question was how did you get so many research ideas throughout your career? I think it's vitally important to have novel ideas to pursue. So, how did you really manage to get so many ideas?
I think anybody keen on doing research needs to study the current literature, look at it very critically. What are the questions raised in that paper? You need to develop a sharp eye for looking at what are the questions remained unanswered or what the authors raised those questions for any future further studies. So we need to be looking out for that. Unless you read what's and you need to read very extensively, and you have to go beyond, say, like ophthalmology. You need to look at the journals, like JAMA or New England Journal of Medicine, or maybe other research journals like the Nature, the Science, to get some ideas from across the fields. By limiting yourself to the area of your own interest, perhaps you'll not be able to generate any worthwhile research ideas.
Sir, so the next question was how did you prepare your manuscripts? We've seen that they have all been very immaculate. Is there a particular order in which you prepare your manuscripts?
The easiest part of the manuscript preparation is the results. And also, I think the most important which people are going to look for in your paper. What you found is only you know about it. You can put it in any tabulated form or in form of any charts or master charts and do all the statistical analysis, and then you know for yourself whether this what you have found, is it significant, is it going to make any difference or not. The next part is the preparation of the methods. Again, you know exactly how did you carry out the study. What was the methodology used? Was it a prospective study? Was it a retrospective study? My only submission here is please do not fabricate your data. Do not say anything which you have not done. If you have not done a prospective study and you claim that it was a prospective study, the reviewers are going to catch up very quickly because they are experienced to discover some of these inaccuracies and discrepancies in the manuscript when it is submitted, and it will never be accepted. The most important part of the manuscript is the title, because it's the title which attracts a reader to a particular paper. So you keep it towards the end of your manuscript preparation. And the next important is the abstract. The reviewers, and I review a lot of papers, for a number of journals, and I think very often I'll pay attention to the abstract. Every word that is put in the abstract has to have a meaning, has to have some kind of conclusions. And if the reviewer is happy with your abstract, and majority must realize there are very few people who read the whole manuscript. People have free access to abstracts. That is what your readership is going to read. And those, if your abstract is going to get attention from a keen researcher who wishes to pursue research in the same area, he will go all out to get a full manuscript. The third is the introduction. I think introduction is the next important part which I would write, and here after the results, because that is where you want to attract the reader. In the first few lines you have to say why you undertook the study and what it means. I think the least important component is the discussion. I don't have the patience to know how the authors are trying to hypothesize what they found. What they found is what I'm interested in. What they mean, what they conclude is I'm interested in. And of course, the reviewers always look at the bibliography, the references. If you are putting down inaccurate references, it shows that you are not a meticulous worker. You lose your credibility as a researcher if you don't put even the references in the proper manner.
The next question was, is there a group of papers which have been your most favorite, or rather have been your most impactful?
Papers which I believe we were first in the world to say something very significant, and they made huge impact on the way the people perceive those kind of diseases. And the most important of these, I would believe, is a bunch of papers, I think more than 25 now, on TB uveitis. And in 2003, we were the first one in the world to say that serpiginous choroiditis could be related to tuberculosis. And we went on to characterize this, and we also went on to characterize other phenotypes of TB uveitis using a variety of technologies like PCR and PET scan and CTs, and characterizing on OCTs, on autofluorescence. Using a variety of techniques, we try to characterize these diseases, and now this uveitis is recognized not only in the endemic countries like India, but all over the world. The other most impactful paper has been when we first said that, well, we could use atorvastatin as an adjunct in management of patients who were dyslipidemic and had diabetic macular edema. And this was a very, very small study which emerged out of a MS thesis. And it has been cited so frequently now. The other impactful research has been identifying fungus as a main culprit in post-operative endophthalmitis in our own setting in India, as well as finding out that fungal contamination of the usual infusion fluids like dextrose 5% could, even in healthy people, who are just getting it for very, very minor ailments, could result in fungal endophthalmitis.
The next question was, is there anything in particular that you're working on right now that you want to share with our listeners?
I retired some years ago, and I'm really not working on any particular subject now. and there are some papers you might see my name as a co-author on a number of papers that keep appearing because of my colleagues continue to work on some of the data that we had collected during all those many decades that I was actively engaged in research.
So the next question was, how did you manage to devote so much time for your clinical research activities despite being so busy with seeing patients as well as having administrative duties?
I firmly believe that research can be done only by busy clinicians. The clinical research will emerge out of busy clinics. It will not emerge out of people who are sitting at home in isolation. I have been busy, but you have a team, you have collaborations, interdisciplinary researches, you generate ideas, and you wish your basic scientists and your other colleagues in other disciplines to work on those ideas and collect data. And that is how the clinical research is most often are done. Well, towards the end of my career, I did have more administrative duties, but if you love research as a passion, and I'm sure I was quite passionate about research in my career, you would find time, any time of the day is good time for generating research ideas. You don't put any unsolved question under the carpet. You don't sleep over. You try to figure out. You have to find the answers. And I'm sure there are more questions than answers in the world.
Thank you, sir. Just a couple more questions. The next question was, how did you maintain a work-life balance with so many different activities going on? Some of us who are involved in clinical research find it quite hard to maintain a balance between being at work and being at home. So how did you manage to pull it off?
A major challenge in my life to strike a balance between my work and life, and I was spending almost like 12 to 14 hours a day in my clinic, in the hospital and the OR, finding very little time for day-to-day activities in my family affairs. In the early part of my career, I was very fond of traveling, and we used to take at least two vacations. With my family, I have traveled practically all over the country, driving my own car. So those were fun times, and we really cherished those memories of traveling to different parts of the world when I was totally detached from my clinical research and academic duties.
The last question was, is there any special message for young researchers who are watching this episode?
For the young researchers and young doctors, my parting advice would be to not stop asking questions. What I say is, before you learn the answers, learn to ask questions. In my paradigm, learning questions, how to ask a question, how to frame a question, how precise you should be in asking that question and asking your query. I think that's what, with the availability of Google and such search engines, it's so easy to find whatever is known about a particular subject, about a particular aspect of a question, and you need to find out the outer boundaries of knowledge. You need to figure out what questions have no answers, and those are the questions you need to chase in your research. They are the questions which you should frame your research grants and research questions and try to figure out the answers. And I'm sure all those answers that you find, all those papers that will emerge would have a huge impact all over the world.
So we come to the end of this interaction with Professor Amod Gupta. Sir, thank you very much for being on Research Live and spending time with us and sharing your research journey with all of us. I think it's been inspirational right from the start to finish, and I think all of us feel very motivated by everything that you have done, and I'm sure that the path that you have set out for us will help us and all our listeners to achieve a lot of success in the field of clinical research. Thank you very much once again, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sabyasachi, for providing with your excellent platform to share my thoughts on research. You may not be aware that I'm on regular mailing list of your S1E1 Gupta Research Academy. I've always enjoyed looking at the Academy website, and especially your lectures on the paper writing skills and biostatistics have always impressed me. Your academy perhaps is the only one in India that I'm aware of which provides very high quality content on all aspects of manuscript preparation and biostatistics. I'd like to once again thank you very much and wish you all the best in your research endeavors. Thank you.